Today on the Inside Scoop, Texas A&M beats Miami in a heated five-star battle. We're going to talk Auburn Big Cat weekend intel, Notre Dame trending for even more commitments, and Georgia updates after the UGA scavenger hunt. A loaded show, but before we start, I was in a total sprint this morning. No time for breakfast, so Huel handled it for me. Quick meal in a bottle. Link is in the description if your mornings look like mine. Let's take a look at last week's commitments. In this video, we cut the commitments down, right down to the moment where they put the hat on or fake you out with the wrong hat. But you're going to see here, we had 4 total commitments on the channel last week. Notre Dame landed 2 of them, both 5 stars. Michigan landed the other 2. So Notre Dame and Michigan dominated this channel last week. Michigan lands 2 elite players on the offensive side of the ball. Notre Dame goes for 2 5-stars. Here it is, the moment of the commitment.
Without that, man, I'll be committing to. Ooh, this out. Irish.
But this decision wasn't easy. It was a hard, long thought decision. And I feel like the best decision for me is the University of Michigan. Go Blue. Oh, shit, wrong one. Oh.
It's Michigan. You almost had us fooled there, but it is Michigan landing wide receiver Quint Burrell out of Mount Carmel High School.
It's a good racing Notre Dame.
Just want to thank everybody for showing up and showing me support. Family, then all 43 coaches that gave me the opportunity to possibly go to college to their school, and then the family blessings and God gave me. But for the next 3 to 4 years, I've been taking my talents to Michigan. Go Blue!
All right, so we had 4 last week. I'm telling you this week already on my schedule, we have 6. We could add more, so make sure you guys are subscribed to get all the action here on the Rivals YouTube channel. We are talking Notre Dame recruiting, and I got Mike Singer here, and pretty soon, if Notre Dame doesn't cool off, I'm going to start having to call you a co-host. Got you coming on so often here, but hey, we're back at it, Mike. It was a huge week for Notre Dame recruiting, and it started with Olu Babola, the 5-star, committing to Notre Dame on Tuesday. Since then, there's been 2 more commitments, and we are staring down the barrel of a big one that goes down on Monday, Leighton Von Brandt. So we'll start there. Let's start on the latest intel. We're about 24 hours out from Leighton Von Brandt, one of the top offensive tackles in America, committing right here on the Rivals YouTube channel. What are you hearing in terms of where Notre Dame stands and which direction this recruitment's trending?
Yeah, obviously the recruiting prediction machine of Rivals is favoring Notre Dame, with his final 4 being the Fighting Irish and then Penn State, Auburn, and Florida. You know, Josh, a lot of times when you're going into these commitment dates, it's pretty much just, it's a done deal, right? The kids know where they're going and things like that. With Von Brandt, I do believe that Notre Dame is the team to beat, but I believe that there is another school or 2 out there that's still like really trying to make things interesting down the stretch. So obviously we'll see on Monday, but I would expect like the Irish to be the choice. And if that's the case, man, that would be what, 4 commitments in 6 days, all on the offense or defensive line. Marcus Freeman talks all the time, Josh, about this program being an offensive and defensive line driven program. And they definitely like put that to action on the recruiting trail. Like they're really loading up on both sides of the ball.
No doubt. I mean, if they can land Von Brandt. Now, so who would be the top competition? Because I remember when Maxwell Hiller committed to Florida, the rumors started swirling. I saw Leighton Von Brandt, celebrating Maxwell's commitment to the Gators. I know they're friends. There's some rumors Von Brandt went down to Gainesville for a trip, but it has felt like Notre Dame for at least the last 10, 14 days. That's where the intel's been pointing. So are the Gators, and then who would it be? Auburn? I think they were heavily involved as well.
Yeah, it's tough to say down the stretch because the intel or like who would be pushing Notre Dame because the intel is it's kind of reading between the lines. But obviously, like Florida, with their offensive line coach coming from that fired James Franklin staff, Troutwine, he's got a strong
Yeah.
relationship with Penn State's a school he's obviously familiar with. He's visited there over a dozen times, according to his rivals. Visit center, and then Auburn. Anytime Auburn's involved, you kind of just have to watch out for them because they can make a big push in ways that Auburn can. So, yeah, we'll just have to see, Josh. Is there another player out there? Like like I said, it's a little bit more reading in between the lines. Like I'm not trying to spook Notre Dame fans to or give false optimism to other programs, but like I said, I think it's going to be Notre Dame, but there could be a late push from another school. Just have to see what happens on Monday morning, which is part of the fun, like let's see, so many times it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, we better, I mean, we got to stop talking about it because pretty soon he's going to be committing. So yeah, we're going to all find out, including Notre Dame fans here real soon. Make sure you guys are subscribed. You get notified when we go live. So that being said, after Leighton Von Brandt, do things kind of calm down at least until these big OV weekends start coming in early June? What's going to be kind of the recruiting schedule here?
Yeah, Jackson Vaughn is from Bergen Catholic in Oradell, New Jersey. He was in the 28 class, now reclassed to 27. I think that he's leaning towards the Irish. He's going to announce his commitment on May 26th. And then just like what domino effects happen, like with Follow Run Show, the interior defensive lineman, a 5-star by Rivals, him committing, do other interior defensive linemen push their dates up? Notre Dame's definitely got more work to do, but what other dominoes will fall? Definitely Parks, Braden Parks from Chicago would be one I would keep an eye on. Is there any other interior defensive lineman movement? What about 2028 class at the quarterback position? Notre Dame's got a few offers out. I could see Notre Dame landing any of those prospects. So I think sometime in the next month, Josh, I'll be on here talking about our Notre Dame quarterback commitment in the 28 class. Like things are going to pick up on that front here pretty soon.
Okay, let's circle back to another 5-star offensive lineman, Albert Simeon. I spoke to Albert Simeon when he was on his visit run earlier this spring, and he mentioned that Notre Dame was a serious contender. We don't hear that all the time with Louisiana recruits and Notre Dame, but I mean, Albert Simeon said he's a 4.0 student athlete. There's a lot of things that line up with what Notre Dame can provide to him. Is Albert Simeon still going to, because he's probably not going to make a decision till probably June, July, August, I would say. So is Albert Simeon in the budget? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I can't speak to the budget thing in terms of dollars, but in terms of like the planning budget, absolutely. It's my understanding that if Notre Dame does get Leighton Von Brandt on Monday, Albert Simeon will probably be the only offensive line target that they would moving forward target, because that would put them, if Von Brandt picks the Irish, that puts them at 5 offensive linemen in a class where it's like, my understanding is like 4, maybe 5. So now you're at 5 again. If Von Brandt picks the Irish, do you push for Simeon? I think he's too good to not go after a 5-star from Louisiana. And
plus he's an interior guy. I mean, Von Brandt and some of these other guys are Olu. He's a tackle.
Yeah, Olu's a tackle for sure. I think Von Brandt is a tackle. So I think it, and then you have a couple swing guys, like Jackson Hill, who Notre Dame flipped from UCLA. He's kind of a swing guy. James Halter from Pennsylvania, he could play either. For Simeon, though, talking to sources in South Bend, Notre Dame has felt like it's a Notre Dame A&M battle for a while. And of course, you're like, well, what about LSU? Yeah, you can't count them out. But again, the intel in South Bend has suggested that Notre Dame's a top 2 school for a while. And I tend to believe that.
All right, we're going to keep following it. Now, how about some of these skill players? Namely, you got Julius Jones Jr. I imagine he's at or near the top of the board when it comes to skill players. Last cycle, it was all about the skill player. I think we had 4 of them commit right here on this channel. This year, it's all about in the trenches with our commitments on the Rivals channel. But what about the skill position? Do we see some commitments here in the spring, summer?
Yeah, Julius Jones is definitely the big one. I was just down at
Yeah.
St. Thomas Aquinas a few days ago and had a really good interview with him. You'll be able to find that soon at blueandgold.com. I think Notre Dame's got the lead with Oregon second, Miami running third. Whether Jones commits in May, June, July,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be, I think it's going to be Notre Dame. He told me June 23rd, so we'll keep an eye on that date. And then, yeah, I mean, they got their running back, they got their quarterback, maybe a second tight end, Malik Howard from Tennessee, Notre Dame would love to have. And then in the defensive backfield, Notre Dame's got 4 commitments. I think
Mhm.
they would like to take another safety, but that will remain to be seen. It could be a flip. Jalen Jones committed to Miami, Greedy James, who's committed to Texas, a couple guys that they're working on.
Beautiful. All right, Notre Dame fans, make sure you are subscribed because in 24 hours, we're going to have another major commitment that could go in Notre Dame's favor. You'll just have to be there to see it. We will see you guys on Monday morning. Let's talk some Georgia recruiting. It was a big weekend in Athens, scavenger hunt weekend. We got Jeremy Johnson with Dogs HQ here. Jeremy, there was a bunch of big names on campus, but I want to know about Rivals number 2 ranked linebacker Joakim Gouda. He is one of the best linebackers in America, one of the best players in the state of Georgia this cycle. He was on campus. What are you hearing coming out of this weekend?
I mean, Georgia's come on strong for him. I mean, he's made no bones about how hard they've been recruiting him. He really likes them, and I think this weekend, I mean, they're going to get him on campus twice here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I think his OV is for May 29th, so he's going to get back on campus soon. I think Georgia's kind of put the full court press on and made a real run at maybe having him join the class sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that sense. It might be time for Gouda to jump on board. We'll see what happens there as we continue to follow it. Now, coming out of the weekend, who were some of the other headliners on campus that impressed you?
Yeah, you got the trio of receivers. You got 5-star Eric McFarland. You got 4-star Amari Patterson, and you got a fast rising 3-star and Namjay Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of those guys have been recruited really hard by Georgia. Texas A&M has been the school that a lot of people kind of talk about with McFarland. So just seeing Georgia get him on campus, you obviously definitely want to take a swing at a guy like this. He's an electric playmaker. He's from Las Vegas, just like Zachariah Brett, and I think there is some mutual interest and some mutual respect for Georgia as a program, especially being that he's an IMG guy. They also had his quarterback on campus, Jaden Wade. So, I'm sure Jaden's been putting some bugs in his ear about what it would be like to continue to play together at the college level. So that's what I'm watching. I don't know that Georgia's going to, necessarily win out there, but it's interesting that he did take that visit and that he did come in with Jaden Wade and visit and in the IMG, pipeline that has been, developing over the last couple of years with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Amari Patterson's a guy that Georgia's recruited hard. He's had a lot of love for Georgia since the moment he got the offer. He was on campus maybe 3 times during the spring, and then he took his OV this weekend. Georgia's, one of the top 2 or 3 in that recruitment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thompson's the guy that's, new to the scene. I mean, Georgia offered maybe a month ago and immediately became a contender when he came in for a visit in the spring. And Alabama's also been heavy on him in some of the in-state schools as well. So those are the 3 guys that really stood out, and those are the 3 guys that I think we'll pay the most attention to. Jabarius Guerra is an edge from Mobile, Alabama, a bigger high school that is also, seen some surge with Georgia as of late. He's been on campus twice in the last 2 months, maybe. So, I think that was one that's pretty interesting to watch as well. And I think I'll be interested to see what he has to say about how things went.
Yeah. All right. Well, you mentioned Jaden Wade on campus. He's one of the top quarterbacks in 2028, already committed to the Dogs. But when it comes to 2027 quarterback recruiting, there was a major development this week. Peter Bork, one of Georgia's top quarterback targets, committed to Virginia Tech. So I ask now, where does Georgia kind of turn from here when it comes to the quarterback position? Or do you see them maybe waiting till the fall to maybe get another look at some of these guys during their senior years?
Yeah, I mean, they offered Derek Baker, who's a Tennessee commit right here in the state of Georgia at Milton High School, but spoke with him, wrote a story about it. He's locked in with Tennessee, and he really likes Tennessee. Tennessee got in on him early, and they made him a priority, and they landed his commitment. It seems he's sticking to that, at least for now. Did not have any plans to visit Georgia, when I spoke with him. You know how that goes. Things may
Yep.
change over time, but
Things can
I'm
change.
sure he's going to give Georgia a look because he's right there in state, and you kind of look at his skill set and you see a lot of you know the things that Gunnar Stockton does well. Derek Baker also does, so that's what I'm watching for sure, especially going over the next couple months. And then you got the summer where you bring guys in to throw.
Yeah.
Camp is usually like that last week of May. It's kind of that last camp for Georgia. I'm assuming there will be a couple guys there that we don't necessarily know anything about that will be there to kind of throw, and then we'll see what happens from there. And then you got the fall, and I think there'll be some options that pop up in the fall as well. I mean, this thing doesn't have to happen right now for Georgia. They got Bryson Bieber last cycle, like into the second semester, so as a transfer. So there are ways to kind of acquire quarterback play, and I think it is a priority for Georgia. And I do think it won't just be a guy that, hey, let's just pick this guy and bring him on board. It'll be someone they thoroughly investigate and thoroughly believe in. Was who they target at some point.
Yeah.
Colton Nussmeier is another name to watch. He's been on campus a ton, likes Georgia. His family has a connection with Kirby, so that's a name that we also need to watch as well. And I know they would see Jamison Roberts, which I don't expect there to be a whole bunch there. He's locked in with Oklahoma, so it's a fluid and ongoing situation at the quarterback spot for this class for sure. Especially then you have Jaden Wade, lurking in 2028 as well.
Yeah, how does that play into everything? We will see. But I get the sense that Georgia is going to take a 27 quarterback. So we'll keep following that storyline. Last summer, Georgia recruiting got really hot coming out of June into July. I think we had a half dozen Georgia commitments just on our channel. I mean, that's not all the Georgia commitments, but we had about 6 of them in that run. So do you feel like the scavenger hunt kind of sets up Georgia for a hot summer?
Yeah, I mean, the scavenger hunt is like, it's almost that first week of summer, what we now have come to know as the summer official visit run, where there's 4 weeks of official visits. This is the first one. They're not always going to be official visits involved with this weekend, but I think this week they had 5 or 6. So the unofficial guys that came in to visit are also big. And you kind of look back over the last couple of years. I did a story about this and kind of look back, and I didn't realize how many commits. They may not have committed the next week, but you look at the totality of the cycle. Most of those guys end up at Georgia. There was one, I think the year before last, there was 10 guys that were at the scavenger hunt that ended up at Georgia. And one of those guys was KJ Bolden, and he did not commit to Georgia initially. He ended up at Georgia later. And CJ Wiley was one the next year who committed to Florida State, but ended up at Georgia at the end of the cycle. You do got some guys that commit, after the scavenger hunt that ended up elsewhere, but it definitely is a bit of a foundation piece when it comes to, hey, this is an opportunity for the coaches to get to know these guys on another level versus, hey, we're coming to talk to you about how you fit in this scheme, what this campus has to provide you, and even the ultimate financial talk that you have to have, at this point. That doesn't happen during this weekend. This is more of a, hey, we want you to kind of know who we are as people and have some fun. And you kind of get to see some competitiveness. I talked to Kevin Hartsfield. He said they were so competitive in his group that they got stuck. The golf cart got stuck, and he had to get out and lift it up so that they can continue on their way. That's the level of competitiveness that group has, and it kind of tells you what the culture is at Georgia. So it's definitely a foundational piece to what happens this summer.
Yeah, and great point. There will be guys that were on campus that did not commit that are going to sign with Georgia. So Georgia fans, I want to know, who do you think is uncommitted right now that was on campus this weekend that ends up signing with the Dogs? Let us know in the comments below. Let's talk a little Auburn recruiting. It was Big Cat weekend, and we got the big dog here from Auburn Sports, Jeffrey Lee. Jeffrey, what's the big news from Big Cat weekend?
The big news, Josh, was a big commitment for Auburn, man. Finishing that weekend, wrapping it up with a commitment is always a good way to end it. Got Kareem Palmer, the 3-star linebacker from Toombs County in Georgia, who DJ Durkin loves. He had a great performance at the Under Armour event in Charlotte, clocked a sub 4.4, 40-yard dash, which kind of opened up DJ Durkin's eyes and said, let me go look at this kid. And he went and he did an in-person evaluation and just loved what he saw. He loved the comparisons. to Xavier Atkins, Auburn's All-American linebacker. Kind of undersized, but really fast, really quick, really knows for the football. And got him in for Big Cat and really just pushed for him. And he felt the love and went ahead and he informed them Saturday morning and then announced Sunday morning. So big commitment, man. Anytime you can get a commitment coming out of Big Cat and heading into OV season, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and that now brings Auburn to 25th overall, 6 commitments on the low side right now. We know Auburn's going to get theirs, and I actually saw more predictions rolling in out of the weekend. So, Jeff, who are you feeling good about? Who could be next coming out of Big Cat weekend?
I'm feeling good about several guys. JUCO defensive lineman Christian Mays. I'm feeling good about Nash Johnson, the cornerback from Georgia, who was committed to Alabama. He named Auburn as leader. Christian Mays named Auburn as leader. But I think the next guy that could get on board is Rance Brown, the offensive lineman from Brentwood, Tennessee. He has mentioned Auburn as his leader in the past. He's kind of backed off of that now that he's kind of getting closer to making a decision. Indiana, North Carolina, Tennessee, but this is really a Auburn Kentucky battle for Rance Brown. He's got an official visit scheduled to Auburn for May 29th. I think Kentucky the following weekend. But he said after Big Cat, he was like, "I'll probably have a decision before I even get back to Auburn." So that all signs are pointing to Auburn with Rance Brown. Grew up in Gadsden, Alabama. Grew up an Auburn fan. So I really like Auburn's chances with him. I think he could be next. I think Auburn made some really big moves. I think Auburn's either one or two for several in-state kids. Marquise Evans, big defensive lineman from Spain Park. I think Auburn's in fantastic position for Carlos May. In great shape with Jaden Appreciado Bailey and Junior Tuopo, the two defensive backs. And then I think, like nationally, I think, Josh, what I was surprised with the most was the impact that Big Cat had on some of these national guys like Cade Cunningham, the 4-star wide receiver from Pennsylvania. He came in. Damani Warren, 4-star wide receiver from Nevada. The Feister brothers, 2027, 2028, 4-star guys from Ohio. And so there was a lot of good mix of in-state and out-of-state. Jeremiah Culpepper is another kid from Georgia who I like Auburn with right now. So a lot of good moves. And then 2028 was loaded. You had 3 of the top 10 overall recruits in the country in Quelly Fielder, Jelani George, Tyson Swan at Auburn. So it was a big day for Auburn, and what a way to conclude it with a Big Cat commit.
Yeah, you guys had great coverage. You were over on campus yesterday for over 14 hours providing live updates at auburnsports.com. Loved it. You've covered a lot of Big Cat weekends. This is the first one that you've covered under Alex Golish and his staff. What were maybe some of the similarities, maybe some of the differences? How did Alex Golish put his fingerprint on Big Cat weekend?
I think it was, they all have the same purpose. They all have the non-football activities, the scavenger hunt. I thought it was really cool of Alex Golish to divide the teams up into into position groups. So the position guys, the recruits, they were all bonding. The wide receivers, the offensive linemen, they were all on the same team. They were all with Tyler Hudnick. They were all with their position coaches, and was able to see. And they took them to different places on campus. So if you'd never been there before, you got to see everything without having a campus tour. It wasn't just a regular visit. I thought it was much more personal than in years past, especially under Hugh Freeze, which, the recruiting calendar has changed so much. This used to kind of be an end of July event. And with the recruiting calendar, Auburn kind of threw together a visit weekend last year and called it Big Cat, but it was nothing like it was today or yesterday. I was very impressed with what Alex Golish and staff was doing. I thought the biggest difference was the national recruits, bringing in guys from all over the country. That's something that probably we haven't seen since 2009, when you're bringing in guys like Lake Seastrunk and Michael Dyer and Trevon Reed. It was one of the better all-around visitor lists that I've seen in a while, because you can't put together lists like they did in 2009. You've got Georgia having official visits this weekend. Isaac McNeil was there. Jabarius Garora was there. You had other guys taking visits, and this, the cookout. Everybody's got kind of their big cat now. Auburn, birthed this idea in 2009, and everybody's just kind of, taking their own way of doing it. So it's tough to get a lot of these top recruits in on the same day, but Auburn was managed to put together a very impressive list, and I thought that was a credit to Alex Golesh and staff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems very early for Big Cat Weekend. It wasn't just me. I'm not losing my mind here. Big Cat Weekend was normally at the end of July, but, like you said, with the way recruiting goes these days, you can't wait till the end of July to have these type of weekends. So now Big Cat Weekend used to be the catch-all at the end of summer. Now it kind of sets up summer. So Jeff, there's still some needs left to fill. This sets up summer. What does Auburn need to accomplish this summer on the recruiting trail?
Well, a lot of these guys, these national guys, hadn't set up official visits. Kay Cooper, Feister, a lot of these guys, Damani Warren. I think what Big Cat did was it set them up to say, "Hey, I want to come back. This is a place that I didn't realize may be a factor." But if you go back and you look at Auburn's commitment list, I think they've gotten 5 or 6 commits in the past month, including one each of the past 3 weekends. You had Brylan Odor 2 weeks ago, you had Gary Chapman last week, and you've got Kareem Palmer this week. And it was building momentum, is continuing that momentum to go into official visit season, which for Auburn begins on May the 29th. So you want to keep that momentum going. And these official visits weekends that Auburn has set up, May 29th, June 5th, 12th, 19th, huge. I mean, we were talking about that yesterday. It was like Big Cat every weekend of June.
Right.
I mean, you're
Setting
talking
it
15 to 16 official visitors that are studs. And so the Auburn's, they wanted to maintain that momentum going into OV season. I absolutely think they hit it out of the park.
All right. Well, here we are. Auburn fans talk with Jeffrey Lee and me. Talk to us about this class. 6 commitments, doing well so far. Great start. Myson Johnson Cook on the top of that commitment list. Who do you guys think is next? Let us know. Comment section below. Mark Matthews just committed to Texas A&M, beating out the Miami Hurricanes. We have Joseph Hastings here with Aggie Yell on the On3 network. What a moment. You are down on site in Fort Lauderdale. What was the atmosphere like at the moment he picked Texas A&M?
Josh, I've covered a lot of commitments before, but this was one of the most high intensity, high energy ones, not only from Mark, his family, but all of his teammates around. You can tell that he's a genuinely likable guy, big-time player for his program, and someone that everyone looks to as a leader. And you see the full support behind me here. There was just a lot of energy leading up to the announcement, during it, and after, as you can see behind me. Just a special day here for St. Thomas Aquinas, their program, and the Matthews family.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you. I know this isn't our normal video. It's okay. There's a little background noise. I felt like this was a moment for the 2027 class, a moment obviously for Texas A&M, their second offensive lineman that is a 5-star, now committed. What does Mark Matthews bring to Texas A&M? What type of player are they getting?
Well, in Mark Matthews, they're getting somebody who can be a foundational piece for them along the offensive line for multiple years. I see him as a multi-year starter, potentially anchoring down that left tackle spot. He's somebody with a background in soccer and basketball, and you see it on the football field. He has nimble feet. The athleticism is there. The explosion is there. Every single day he goes up in practice. I've seen 2 of his practices the past couple of weeks. He's going up against Wyatt Smith, a top 100 pass rusher. A lot of people project him to go to Ohio State. So he's going up against the best of the best. St. Thomas Aquinas is a program that is known for producing top pass rushers on a yearly basis. You think of Dallas Turner, the Bosa brothers, and Mark gets to go up against that competition not only in practice but on Friday nights as well. So they're getting somebody who's a true blue chip quality prospect, the number 1 tackle in the country, and I don't think that's really disputable at this time. And just a massive pickup for A&M considering where he's from too. I mean, I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
I saw a lot of Miami shirts, a lot of Miami hats out here today. A lot of people wanted him to go to Miami. It was a tough decision for him, but A&M was able to, through relationships, through development, through everything in between, they were able to land this commitment today, a seismic type of victory for them on the recruiting trail.
And you can feel the energy coming from that high school right now, St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I know he committed today, and the energy's high, and the vibes are always high. But in this era of recruiting, flips happen. However, it felt like his family, it felt like his entire support system around him is on board with this decision of picking the Aggies over the hometown Canes. Did you get that sentiment? Did you get the feeling that everybody is behind this decision?
I got that feeling as well. I mean, Josh, when you look at what Texas A&M can provide him versus Miami, obviously Miami's got the location, they've got the long-term relationships, but A&M has, the ability for him to go into the SEC, potentially be a starter at left tackle for multiple years, as I mentioned before, go up against some of the best pass rushers in the country, and also just allow him to have that traditional college experience as well. Going to Miami, he would have kind of been surrounded by some of the same people that he's known throughout his life, and there would have been kind of a sense of comfort there. Whereas with Texas A&M, you put him in a place like College Station where it's really just football. I spoke with a couple of commits yesterday about it. That's something that's appealing to recruits when they choose Texas A&M, is the ability to kind of get away from everything and focus solely on football. So I felt like the full support system. You saw his mom wearing the Texas A&M jersey. He put the cowboy hat on her. I mean, he definitely felt on board with this decision. I think he's felt that way for a few weeks. Had to have some conversations with his family about it, but I think everybody is fully on board and supportive of this decision.
Yeah, and sometimes when the star local prospect picks an out-of-state team, sometimes he does it with his eyes looking down. He's not as soft-spoken. Mark Matthews was loud and proud today to be committed to Texas A&M. So the last thing I want to ask you is Mark Matthews the last 5-star offensive lineman that's going to commit to Texas A&M?
Josh, that's a really good question, because when you go back through the recruiting rankings over the years, you don't see programs sign 3 5-star offensive linemen. You see them sign a couple. 4 programs have done that this decade. A&M, if they're able to sign Kennedy Brown and Mark Matthews in December and they maintain their rankings, they will be a pair of 5-stars in that class. They'll join that list. But you look at someone like Albert Simeon out of Louisiana, somebody that A&M has been high in the mix for at the top of the leaderboard or sharing the top of the leaderboard for the past 7-8 months now. He's somebody that you look to as another potential addition as a 5-star along the offensive line. And shoot, just when you talk about 5-stars in general, A&M's not done. They've got guys like Eric McFarland and Caden Henderson, both also here in the state of Florida. You got Albert Simeon, as you mentioned, Joshua Dobson, John Meredith, a pair of 5-star cornerbacks that they're in the mix for. They're at 5 stars right now. Josh, if you ask me, is there a chance that they can double it up when it's all said and done? I wouldn't say it's necessarily likely, but they're going to have a shot. They're going to have an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, unbelievable. And Joseph, thank you for dropping by. You were covering the event live for our Aggie Yell site on the On3 network, but you dropped by moments after Mark Matthews announced. Appreciate you for dropping by this commitment from Mark Matthews.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me on board. Look forward to doing these in the future, man.
All right. We appreciate you. And Texas A&M fans, jump in the comment section and let us know how you're feeling. Big edition today.